Podcast One is your one-stop shop for everything TV and pop culture.
A very candid, not even supposed to be on the record conversation.
Check out any of the Collider Network podcasts like TV Talk, Movie Talk, Collider Live, and more. And for you reality TV fans, Rob's sister Nino's got you covered with Rob Has a Podcast.
This is a podcast
There's no
about
substance.
nothing.
Yeah.
You literally have a podcast about nothing.
Check out the Collider Network and Rob Has a Podcast every week on Podcast One or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Pluto. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Schmoedown Rundown. Introducing first, Frankie Stan Janisch, and the host of the Schmoedown Rundown, Brad Gilmore.
What's up, movie trivia Schmoedown fans? Welcome to the Schmoedown Rundown, the official after show for the movie trivia Schmoedown. I am Brad Gilmore, and I am joined from Chicago, Illinois. He actually might be from Cincinnati, folks. He is at Frankie J29, and I don't know if those numbers mean nothing. What's up, Frank?
Hi, hey, what's going on, Brad? It's good to be back here after a long week. It's been a long week, especially after Turkey Week. You know, that one's always long.
Yes, very long. Are you actually from Cincinnati, as Mark Ellis said?
I was born there. Yes, I have a birth certificate that says Cincinnati in it.
Were you really born there?
No.
Oh, okay. You got me.
No, I was not technically born in Chicago. Actually, I was born in Palos Heights, which is like just outside of Chicago. But I grew up in Chicago all my life. So.
Where's the Home Alone house again?
Oh, that's in a northern burb. I forget which one off the top of my head.
You should know this as a Chicagoan.
Well, I mean, it's not part of Chicago, but I mean, yes, it is, but no, it's not. But I'm trying to weasel my way out of that, but not
now,
knowing.
Today is December the 1st, and before we get in the news, this is the holiday season. Your man Brad Gilmore's birthday is in 2 weeks, and then Christmas is just thereafter, 11 days thereafter. Frank, I put out something on Twitter. I put out my top 5 holiday films of all time. What are your you don't have to do top 5, but just give me your top 3 holiday films of all time. And then Chris Clarke 8788, I'm coming to you. So what do you think, Frank? I'm putting you on the spot.
Definitely Christmas Vacation is one I enjoy. A Christmas Story.
I'm not so big on that one.
Okay. It's a Wonderful Life.
Okay.
I do like Home Alone a lot. It's always been a good one to watch. Let me think. What else is there?
I love Jingle All the Way. Sinbad, Schwarzenegger,
yeah, it's not bad.
Rita Wilson, Phil Hartman. It's a very solid film.
Lloyd.
Yeah, Big Show. The Big Show is in that film as well. He plays one of the Santa Clauses who are running the undercover operation or what have you. Anyway, off subject. Chris Clarke 8788, our producer out there in PA. How you doing, man? And what's your favorite holiday film?
I'm actually feeling better. I'm no longer feeling like death or sounding like I swallowed like a car. I feel great. And you know what? My favorite actually holiday movie was one of my dad's favorite and my grandma's favorite was Scrooge, 1970 with Albert Finney. That musical has touched my family so much. I love Scrooge. And I would say the Santa Claus movie, not the Santa Claus the movie. The Santa Claus movie with the Big Lebowski. He played Santa, and I grew up with that film as well, and I love it. Yeah, with he's the voice of Lord Farquaad. Yeah.
Oh, John Lithgow?
John Lithgow, yeah, he was in that too. It's the Santa Claus the movie. I love that film as well. Those are my 2 favorite Christmas films.
All right, well, there we are. What is your favorite holiday film? Tweet me at Brad Gilmore. But we got a lot of news, guys. This is episode 113. We had 2 big matches this week. We had 2 of the singles tournament matches, and they were big ones. We had Clarke Wolfe and Ben Bateman. We also had Dan Murrell versus Stacey Howard. But before we get to any of that, we got to get to a little bit of news, and I got to give a big shout-out real quick off the top. This exhibition, or these exhibition-style matches they've been doing on the Schmoedown Patreon at the $10 tier and then eventually down to the $1 tier after you wait a couple weeks, they are so good. The Jurassic Park one was one of my favorite Schmoedown matches this year so far, and now they've topped it again. this exhibition movie release dates between Adam Lavick, Ben Bateman, Scott Mantz, and the returning-ish Sam I Am Levine was so good. And I'm not going to spoil anything. Actually, I was really about to jump all the way into spoiler territory, and I had to stop myself. But I will say, such as almost every Iron Man match that they've done in the Schmoedown has been, the last 2 minutes will make your heart skip beats. It is one of the most intense showdowns I think that we've ever seen in this in Iron Man matches. They always come and they're always intense at the very end. This one is no exception. Super intense the whole way through. Frank, I know you saw it.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. This was really great, and
I think this is the best exhibition they've done. I think this beats Jurassic Park for me.
I think so, only because of all the personalities at that desk with Sam, Ben, Scott, and even Adam up there. And it was fun to see 4 people up there in an Iron Man match, no less. And like you said, the final 2 minutes have always been a great part of that format, aside from the Patriots Above the Line match. That one was kind of a foregone conclusion, if you ask me. But you're right. In all, these exclusive Patreon matches, exhibition matches, have all been great in their own right, but specifically Jurassic Park with the Iron Man and this one with the Iron Man format have really been excellent. And I don't know if you said it or I said it on the show, I think if we were ever to keep doing Iron Man match formats, that they should mainly live as part of the exhibition on Patreon, and this is a reason why.
Yeah, absolutely. Go out of your way to see it if you haven't. And also a special shout out to Christian Harloff, Kathy Kelly. They did a one-on-one. Kathy Kelly from the WWE. Learned a lot about her, so go out of your way to check that out. Also, we predicted something on this show, Frank Janisch, that came to fruition. And I think that you and I should get 1,000% credit for it. Nobody else deserves any
I don't know what
credit.
you're talking about, so I'm not sure I want to take credit.
We last week, we predicted that the live event in New York City would sell out before our next episode, and it did. It sold out in 3 days. We predicted it. We made it happen. We put in the atmosphere, and it came true. The New York City event, if you want tickets, too bad. Go get a scalper, because you're not going to get them.
It literally sold out before we even released our episode that week.
No, it's not. No, it didn't. Our episode was released. No, Frank, I reject your reality, and I substitute my own.
Point is we recorded before it was sold out, because of the short week. And so when it was announced that it was sold out, our episode came out like that afternoon or whatever it was. So
it sold out it sold out while I was finishing the edit.
It doesn't matter. We recorded that show last week on Wednesday and dropped it on Saturday. That's a little behind the curtain thing for you, but we made it happen. I don't want to hear anything else. But the New York City event is sold out, and we also now know the undercard match that's going on. I'm being told it's been officially announced. Janine the Machine will take on Chance Ellison in the undercard. I think this is a good undercard match, too. These are 2 up-and-comings. I think Janine the Machine has had a great year in the movie Trivia Schmoedown. I don't want to say great, a good year. A good year in the movie Trivia Schmoedown, but impressed a whole lot of people, and she's got a high ceiling. And then Chance, I said on the show, I think it was last week or the week before, Chance Ellison is going to be a singles champion in the movie Trivia Schmoedown in 2019. These are your 2 up-and-comers. If I'm going to equate it to the UFC, this is like when Sage Northcutt met Mickey Gall on the UFC Fight Night. This is a match that we're going to see that's going to have future implications, because one of these 2, they're going to be the thing come next season, in my opinion. So I think this is a great undercard match, Frank.
Yeah, I was really excited to actually hear about this match as it being the undercard match. It's interesting though that 2 relatively young players in this league are going to be the undercard, and that's that's fine when everything's taking place in LA, but this is in New York. This is season opener. This is on another level for just 2 second year players basically, and. Chance, he's been thrown. He's had a whirlwind coming up through the fan leagues, then getting thrown right into the thick of corruption, and now having a first singles match against Ethan Irwin. That's some pretty tough competition to start off your Schmoedown career. Janine, she's been in it for a little bit longer, I guess, in terms of the whole season. So. but she's seen enough, and she's been, just like Chance, she's been a fan for the Schmoedown for a long time, and she's been to the live events, and it's going to be interesting to see how she places the crowd in New York, because if you read her article, that's on triviasd.com, kind of her thoughts on the whole matchup. It's a really good read on Trivia SD. It gives a little bit of insight into what she's thinking. So go and read that, check that out. But I'm excited to see this match happen at New York.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And she did something great on triviasd.com, which I want to get into for a minute. If y'all want to know, I sounded very Southern right there. If you all would like to know the upcoming schedule at any given time, all you got to do is go to triviasd.com. You'll have the full schedule. And right now, Frank, I'm looking at the schedule. I want to run through it real quick. And I want you to tell me what jumps out at you. Of course, we don't know everything, but we know a lot of things. Well, the Ultimate Schmoedown semifinals matches, we're going to see the Fife Club go at it. Clarke Wolfe versus Mark Andreyko, which I want to get into that Fife Club clash a little bit later. But also on December the 4th, you're going to get to see Ethan Irwin versus Dan Murrell. Dangerous Dan Murrell versus Ethan Irwin. I think another dream match on the books, because Ethan Irwin has been a force in the league. I think that he's making a great case for Rookie of the Year. And I think depending on how he maneuvers throughout this tournament, who knows? He could win multiple awards at the Schmoedown Awards, and going against the guy who's the GOAT, Dan Murrell, who we're going to talk about extensively today on the show, who I think has rekindled some of that magic that we know Dangerous Dan for. This is going to be a big match. Clarke Wolfe, Mark Andreyko. Of course, on December the 11th, you're going to see the Contender Qualifier, and then December the 14th, my birthday, by the way, the Ultimate Schmoedown Finals will be going down. And then December the 18th, we're going to have a spectacular preview special. A lot of great stuff coming up. We only know 2 announced matches, Frank, so let me get your reaction. Which one are you looking forward to more? Clarke Wolfe, Mark Andreyko, or Ethan Irwin and Dan Murrell?
It's got to be the Ethan Irwin Dan Murrell match. It has to be. Has to be. Given everything that Dan has been through this season, everything Ethan has shown us this year as a rookie, starting with Free For All and all his other matches, including the one he just put up last week against Chance. So he is an absolute terror, and this could be one of the greatest all-time matches if we get that Dan Murrell we saw this past week. Oh, yeah. If we get the same Dan Murrell, there's definitely going to be sparks flying. How would you characterize, while we're talking about Dan... Actually, no, you know what? We're going to do it now. How would you characterize Dan Murrell for this season? If you had to equate him, he hasn't been the Dan Murrell all the way of old. He's still been an elite-level player. Right? You see the Andrew Guy loss. There was the Founding Fathers loss to corruption. So he's come out. And what is he now after the Stacey Howard win? Is he 2-2? Is that what he is? On the year? Yeah. Well, between teams and singles, he would be 2-2, yeah. 2-2. So he's batting 500 right now as it stands right this moment. What would you equate him to? You know what he's kind of like to me? He's kind of like Rocky in Rocky 3. You know, where he was at the top of his game. He was, knocking out all bums for a long time. He's holding up the American Express commercial. He's the franchise guy. And then Clubber Lang comes through, kind of rocks his world, and he's got to go back and he's got to find his essence. He's got to find the eye of the tiger. I think he may have found it this week. We'll talk about it more. But do you think that's a fair assessment of what we've seen from Dan Murrell this year so far? Yeah, I think so. His year has been interesting to gauge and to kind of put a letter grade on it. I'm not sure, because this week, as we all seen, really skews everything that we've seen previously. Always. So yeah, that's what happens with the Schmoedown. That's what happens. We think that we know how these things are going to play out. We think we have enough data. We think we've seen enough matches, and then something happens. It's always what happens. Something unexpected happens in the Schmoedown, or there's some kind of controversy. Thank the Lord there's been no controversy as of late. But it's true. But now you bring it up, we're probably going to have one next week. We've gone about 2.5 weeks with no controversy. But anyway, that's the upcoming schedule. I also want to real quick run through the rankings real quick. The rankings have been updated as of November the 29th
on triviasd.com. And as they load on my very slow connection, I do want to talk about what do you think the implications of the ratings are going to be? Do you think they're going to dramatically shift? So right now you have the champion John Roku, who stands at 11-6. Number one contender is Dangerous Dan Murrell at 7-3, our number one ranked player. Dan Murrell at 7-3 with 4 knockouts. Classy Clarke Wolfe comes in at number 2 with 7-5. Mark the Android Andreyko at 4. Ethan Irwin at Mark Andreyko at 3, Ethan Irwin at 4, and Mark Riley at 5. Rachel Cushing just missing the cut for the top 5 players in the singles league. What do you think about that? Is that a solid top 5? Do you think that's accurate?
Yeah, I think that's actually on point, although...
Where's Ben Bateman? Oh, well, this is singles. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's 4-4. He's down at number 10. I think this is a pretty fair ranking, although I will say I think at number 8, former champ Bibiani should be ahead of Jeff Snyder at number 7. I think that's the only thing I would switch there. And I guess you could, but again, this is taking into account their entire careers, not just this season. So that's where this gets a little muddy. Right,
and that's how it goes. And I do love that Andrew Guy is ranked number 13. He's on the singles rankings. As you know, we're closing out this year. I was laughed out of the building for putting him on my fantasy team almost a year ago today.
Yep.
And to see him ranked, in the top 15, is better than I think most expected. So let's get into, Frank, a couple other things here before we just jump all the way in. Let's talk about Ben Bateman and Clarke Wolfe. Before we get into the match, let's just think about it a little bit here. We've seen these two go at it before in teams at a live event. Clarke Wolfe and the Wolves of Steel, the Shire Wolves, came out victorious. But this is the first time we're seeing Clarke Wolfe compete in a singles match since she went against Sam Levine in that epic extra innings title match. Clarke Wolfe also never, this is a crazy stat, never gotten out of the first round of a tournament. Ever.
Yeah, it's very surprising because when in 2016 she had a rematch from earlier in the year against Josh McCouga, that was kind of a foregone conclusion, and then last year she's matched up with Breanne Chandler, and everyone thought that Clarke should come out on top with that one, and neither time did she come out on top in the first round. So
it's very shocking for someone the caliber of Clarke Wolfe to have never gotten out of that first round. To me, her not getting out of the first round at this point of where we are in the movie Trivia Schmoedown is as crazy to me as Ben Bateman yet holding gold in the league. I think that's just as crazy. The fact that Ben Bateman has been dominant in, everything that he's done, really, especially winning the Ultimate Schmoedown Teams tournament this year, doing very well in his singles overall. The fact that someone the caliber of his skill level hasn't won a championship is crazy, and that was what his goal was. His goal is, I want to win both tournaments just like Sam Levine did last year, but I want to leave double belted. I want both championships around my waist after the spectacular. Sam Levine had the opportunity. He came up short in the teams. Ben Bateman wants to make history, and that's what he was out here looking to do this time around in this opening match here in the singles tournament. Now, before we get into the match, Frank, we got to talk about this. One of the heroes in the movie Trivia Schmoedown has been Bobby Gucci, Tom Dagnino. We talked with Who's the Boss a couple weeks ago about, what he does for them as a team. But I want to say, as far as the comedic relief in the movie Trivia Schmoedown, when you need someone who's going to pop the audience, when you need someone who's going to make you giggle, make you laugh, or even shake your head a little bit, no one is better at it than Tom Dagnino, in my opinion. We saw a cutscene before this match started between Breanne Chandler and Dagnino. Breanne is trying to get Dagnino to sign this I guess it's a petition. Is that what this would be? Is it a petition saying
basically
that no one wants to, if Thad doesn't do something about this
An
whole
oath,
issue with
I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like an oath, a pledge that
Yeah.
I won't show up at the spectacular
Unless,
if something's not done about the Thad commissionership situation, right? And so Brienne's trying to get this thing going, and Tom Dagnino is a little bit hesitant to sign it. Why would I sign that? If the Shire Wolves don't show up, who's the boss or champions? And then Brienne starts to say, we're trying to unionize, and I think that Dagnino said something about Jimmy Hoffa, and then there was an exchange about Sally Field, which was very funny. And then the last thing that Tom Dagnino says is when he agrees to sign it, he takes the pen and he asks Brienne Chandler, "Is this a gel pen?" Because I wouldn't sign it if it wasn't. which was a line that literally I was listening to this match as I was driving around the city of Houston, and when he said that, I audibly laughed out loud.
Yeah.
It was so unexpected. Is this a gel pen? Because I wouldn't sign it if it wasn't. And then after she walks away, he keeps the pen. He said, "I'm going to sell this to some geek." I don't know why he was so funny to me, but a really good opening scene trying to set something up here with Thad Williams and Brienne. Brienne's really trying to strong-arm Thad into getting or giving up his power, or at least putting himself in a position for his power to be stripped away from him. What did you think about this cutscene overall?
Yeah, this was setting up sort of a larger plan that Brienne had for the commissionership, which we'll get to when we talk about the next match, because that really kind of came full circle then. But these scenes with Dagnino, at least to begin with, and really in the whole week, all his scenes this week were just absolute gold. I mean, I don't know how this guy comes up with the stuff that comes out of his mouth, but I always enjoy. I was thinking, I wouldn't mind having, a show within the Schmoedown, and if it was just little bits and nuggets of Dagnino for it can be 2-minute parts every episode of the Schmoedown, just the life, the day of Dagnino, just little things around the Schmoedown offices, and I would. I mean, you can make that a whole show in and of itself, and I would gladly watch that 5 days a week. But
yeah, I would love that.
Yeah, so it's interesting that what Brienne's trying to do here,
right?
How she's really taking it upon herself to, even though because she's not a player per se. I mean,
no.
Yeah, she had to cash in her free for all win, but other than that, she doesn't really have that much stake in the game per se. Yes, she runs a Patreon, and but I think it shows that she has some sort of investment in the Schmoedown because she was a part of it, and she still is, even though she's not playing. But she has other friends in the league, and wants to make sure the league is on the up and up, and everything's all even keeled for the rest of the players in the league. So storyline wise, I think it's a good angle for Brienne's character to pursue.
What is that? What are the air quotes for?
Well, because it's like with Brienne, I don't. It's half of a character, half real life. It's like the way they do it on the Schmoedown, it blends so well together, or crisscrosses. Right. It's hard to differentiate. Like, we know Ben Bateman is a full-on character because when he's on this show or when he's on the Rally Roundtable talking about Schmoedown, it's just Ben, right? So, but some other people who have a character per se on the Schmoedown, it's kind of meshed together. So that's why I put the quotes up.
Okay, I get you. I thought this was a great scene. I really enjoyed, like you said, we'll get into more of the scenes that we got from Tom Dagnino this week, but they all were just phenomenal. Let's get into the match, because Clarke Wolfe and Ben Bateman on paper has the potential to be a 12-round, go to the judges' scorecards, decision-type match, right? Down to the skin of your teeth kind of match. And that's exactly what we got out of these two, a real tit-for-tat battle. Is this what you expected to see overall between Clarke Wolfe and Ben Bateman?
Absolutely. I thought it was going to be a tight one from the first round to the very last question. Coming into it, Clarke Wolfe was averaging 69%, or answering 69%. Ben, through his first round or first handful of matches, he was answering 70% of his questions. So I knew that it was going to come down to the wire, and you have to kind of give a bit of an edge to Ben because he had a hot hand coming, winning 2 straight, and we know how well he thinks or how deep he thinks about strategy in this game. Although Clarke Wolfe has shown that she really does pay attention to strategy, and when we had her on here back after the collision, she talks about Emma and that manager role she plays and helps preparing her players. So I knew Clarke was going to be well prepared, and Ben was going to be well prepared. It's just right at that point we're really splitting hairs, and it was going to come down to the last question, and that's pretty much what happened here, or that's exactly what happened here.
It is exactly what happened. So let's talk about it. Round number 1 goes down. Clarke Wolfe 6, Ben Bateman 5. A little bit below average for Ben Bateman, I would guess, Frank, with only 5 in the first round.
As of late, this is what he's been playing. His last match, he had 5 or 4, I think, or 5 rather, and before that, he hasn't played that well in the first round as of late. So to see him stick with this kind of average, I don't know if that's a sign of things to come, because last match, he's missing animated questions like he did in the last match, and he's missing comedy questions like he did last match. So I don't know if that's a pattern we're going to see from him in the future, but it certainly reared its head here. And at the tail end of this round, Clarke outscored Ben 3-1, which gave her the 1-point lead heading out of this round.
Do you think, though, some of it might be for Ben not performing as well in round number 1 and maybe missing questions overall that he should be getting? And we're definitely going to get into that in round 3. But do you think that he might be burnt out a little bit? He went through the whole teams tournament, ended up winning that. We've seen him in several singles matches this year. We've seen him at the live event. We've seen him and Drew do a lot of stuff. Do you think that he could be a little bit, as we roll on to the end of the season, could he be burned out?
I suppose it's a possibility, but I think he strikes me as the type of player that once he's in this groove, he prefers to stay in the groove, and coming right out of the teams into the singles or the gauntlet and then into this tournament, I think he probably felt like he was in a groove, and it's hard to argue with that because he just rattled off 6 straight wins before this match with Clarke. So I don't think the fatigue or burning out here was a factor. I think he just came up against questions that he didn't know. Perhaps it did come to bite him in the end. We'll get to that infamous miss he had in the last round. Perhaps that was a bit of it. That was a part of it, but I don't think so. I just think some questions just caught up with him at the wrong time, and that's generally how it goes for a lot of players.
So I agree. I just think that, Ben, and maybe it's unfair. Maybe I have inflated expectations at times, and I don't mean that the wrong way. I just think of Ben so highly, and I think of him as such an elite player, in my opinion, that, a 5 isn't good enough. You need to be 6, 7 in that consistently in round 1. That's how I put him in that league. I put him in the 6, 7, 8 league. For round number 1. That's how I see his potential, at least in my opinion. But let's go into round 2, because in round 2, Clarke Wolfe spins Tim Burton when she goes up. She elects to go first. Of course, she's up 6-5, goes first, spins Tim Burton movies, and then decides to go away from it. What is that? For me, it just kind of came off as odd, because okay, of course, horror thrillers on the board. That's what she wants. That's what she always wants. And as of late, seems like what she's always getting. But Tim Burton would seem to be in her wheelhouse a little bit, right? Why do you think she spun away from it? Because when I think horror thriller, I think creepy crawly. I think, abstract oddity type story. You think Tim Burton. And I think that, maybe that would be in her wheelhouse. Am I way off base in that?
I don't know. I know a lot of people have kind of fallen off Tim Burton's bandwagon, so to say, because his last handful of movies for a little while haven't been that great. So I don't know how much people are really paying that much attention where they feel confident to take it in the second round, because you're not always going to get your Edward Scissorhands and whatnot, to the bread and butter of what everyone knows him for, right? So you may get those ones that you maybe saw once because you had to, because you're in the industry, so you had to see it, and then after that I'm done with it. So maybe, plus there's always horror on the wheel. There's a spinner's choice on the wheel, and maybe there's a couple other categories she liked on there, and she thought her odds were better spinning away from Tim Burton because maybe it was something she'd be fine having, but there's other things on that wheel that she would much rather have, and I think I would assume she weighed the pros and cons of sticking with it or spinning again, and she decided to spin again, and hey, it paid off.
Well, yeah, I was about to say, I didn't know if it was a gut decision or a well-thought-out one, but either way, boy, did it pay off.
Yeah.
Boy, did it pay off. And here's the thing that I love about this, because I know I haven't read the comments of the match. I decided I'm not reading comments on anything anymore. I've excommunicated comments from my life. But I can almost guarantee you there are some fanboys complaining in the comments about Clarke Wolfe, and oh, here she goes again. The only reason she won this match is because she got horror thriller. She's a one-trick pony. She is not an elite player. The Shire Wolves, blah, 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 bliggity, blue, blah. Nothing that these two women ever do is going to be good enough, is it?
No.
It's so frustratingly annoying because you doofuses out there who sit and type this crap in the comments day in and day out really need to go get bent, as far as I'm concerned, because the things that these women have done in this league, her and Rachel Cushing and among others, but these two who get targeted all the time, it infuriates me to no end. And I don't get upset about a lot of things, but they have been elite players since the day they walked into the building, and the unfair criticism that is thrown at them really irks me and gets under my skin. So go get bent, you bunch of morons. Go out in the real world and find a real woman. Don't talk to Alexa all night and think that that's your girlfriend, all right? Go have real human interaction, and maybe you won't be so sour. Okay, I'm off of it. But Clarke Wolfe spins horror thriller. Great category. She goes 7 for 8, goes to multiple choice on that Ash vs. the Evil Dead question, I believe. 7 out of 8, very good round for her. She is up by what? Is that 13? I think at the time she's up 13 to 6, or 13 to 5 before Ben Bateman spins. Once again, did we expect any less in this category?
Yeah, real quick, Brad, before we move on completely, because I just have to say this because while we're on this little topic, because after this match, I put together the records for managers, Emma, Tom, and Jay, and someone said, well, I keep putting out this propaganda for people that I want to see win awards at the end of the year. And
because you're Rachel Cushing, Mark, right? You love Rachel Cushing. Right. Yeah.
But it's easy to be a fan of Rachel, not just because of the person. I mean, it's large in part because of the person that she is and what she brings to Schmoedown, but because she is a great player, and all the great players who I guess put out propaganda. It's not propaganda. It's facts. It's facts, and I don't make this stuff up. And I'm sorry you don't like the facts of someone that you don't care for on the Schmoedown, and that it doesn't go towards your favorite players. I'm sorry. Actually, I'm really not sorry, but that's just the way it is. And to your point about how Rachel and Clarke and Emma, and whether it's Stacy even too, Janine, all of them,
Mara,
I can throw out as many facts, undisputable facts. I mean, this is like, if you want to say like I'm wrong, then go do the work and show me where I was wrong and tell me I'm a liar, and then you can do that. And you can complain all you want how I'm propaganda now. But until you do the work and you can't say that. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is that this is all just a bunch of nonsense, and I cannot believe... I mean, I do believe we're still dealing with this, but I just can't believe that, in this world, when presented with facts, people will then... what they will also do is go, oh, well, it's not about the numbers, it's also just really about the personality. It's like you're just trying to find another way to give the person you like a one-up on something that you cannot dispute. So... now you got me riled up, Brad. But this was a great second round.
I'm sorry.
And Ben dominated. Yeah.
Alexa, do I look handsome? Yeah, she completely killed it in horror thriller, 7 out of 8. Now Ben Bateman goes up and he spins Brad Pitt. And he gets a perfect 8 for 8. A lot of interesting questions in this category of Brad Pitt. It was really a wide net for Brad Pitt, and even the Moneyball question. of, what Marvel MCU actor played the first baseman in Moneyball. It was like, oh, wow, that's kind of a thinker there. Which, by the way, this is a very odd thing. Do you remember that website, screenused.com? I'm sure every movie fan went to it at some point. Never heard of this?
No.
Screenused.com was an auction website where they would auction off things that were in actual films.
Okay.
Right? And the reason I found about it is because they would auction off some Back to the Future memorabilia on there from time to time. I never won anything at all there. And one time, there was a Biff Tannen $100 bill from Back to the Future Part 2 that wasn't even used in the movie, but it was an original production piece that just got cut, right? So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to bid on this. While I'm on the site, I see an auction for Brad Pitt's sweater from Moneyball.
Really?
Right? And the starting bid was $10. For some reason, out of impulse, I bid on it for $10. And nobody else ever bid on it for the entire remainder of this auction. And I ended up winning Brad Pitt's sweater.
I want to see this sweater.
I have it. You know what, Chris? I'm going to text you a picture of it. Throw it up here on the in the video. This is Brad Pitt's sweater. It came with a certificate of authenticity from the film Moneyball. Very interesting stuff. I had to share that. Every time I hear the Moneyball, and I have it just sitting in my closet. I don't know what to do with it.
Have you ever worn it?
Oh, I tried it on the first time. Yeah. I tried it on. I had to.
Did it smell like Brad?
I was named after Brad Pitt. That's who I was named after.
Is your middle name Pitt? Brad Pitt Gilmore? No. Okay.
No. But Bradley came from Brad. My original name. So my mother loved two actors, Brad Pitt, and then another actor named Treat Williams, who's been in several things. So she was going to name me after one of them. It was either going to be Treat or Brad.
Wow.
Treat Gilmore.
I'm not gonna lie. You kind of look like a treat. You do look like.
I look like a treat. Frank Janisch, you look like a snack. Anyway, Ben ends up getting a perfect 8 for 8, 13-13, going into this very intense round number 3. And this is where we got to break it down. I am not the one to complain about question difficulty at all, ever. I don't like it. I know I've done it a couple of times. I don't like it when I do it, but sometimes it's so obvious to me. When there's a bit of a discrepancy between the caliber of questions. Now, when you come to round 3, everyone has the same opportunity to get the same questions, right? It just all depends on what categories you pick. Ben Bateman, in my opinion, and Ben, I'm sorry, this is not any dog on you. These were just the questions you got. You had nothing to do with it. I thought Ben's questions were infinitely easier than Clarke Wolfe's in round 3, in my opinion. Because I say that because I didn't know any of Clarke's at all. Didn't know a single one of them.
Okay.
Ben's, I knew all of his, without even thinking. But let's go through them. Ben Bateman goes first. It was who played Willie Mays Hayes in Major League, the great film Major League, the baseball movie. Major League 2, this actor wasn't in it. And Major League 3, Back to the Minors, I Want to Forget. But who played Willie Mays Hayes in Major League? It was, of course, Wesley Snipes.
Wasn't it later? Was it later Omar Epps? Wasn't it later?
Omar Epps was in too. Yeah, he was in too. Willie Mays Hayes. So Omar Epps was not the answer. Wesley Snipes was. Ben gets it correct. We go to we go to Clarke Wolfe, and in what Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling, they both starred in La La Land, but made their on-screen debut together.
That's not a hard question. Yeah.
In what rom-com? I didn't know. I've never seen Crazy Stupid Love. So
it's good. It's good.
No earthly idea. But Crazy Stupid Love was the answer. Clarke gets it. Boom, we go back to Ben. And here we go. This is the question, Frank. What was the battle cry of Rufio and the Lost Boys in the movie
Believe!
Hook?
It was Believe! No, it doesn't have the same ring to it. You're
Bateman said Believe. Ben Bateman said Believe. I think Believe was the name of the Justin Bieber theatrical documentary. I think. Maybe it wasn't. But at least that's what I think.
Yeah.
Belieber. Believe. I cannot see a bunch. Let's just paint the picture here. You're in Neverland. You're a bunch of young children who've ran away from home or don't have parents anymore. You're living in rags. Your clothes are rags.
You're eating invisible food all
You're
day.
eating invisible food and then when you close your eyes, it's multicolored Play-Doh that you're eating. And and your warriors who fight pirates all the time as well. And when you think, what would really get me jazzed up to go fight Captain Hook and Shmee? What's really going to get me going? Believe. It's not. I would have preferred him saying Wakanda forever. You know,
He should have.
Give me something other than believe. Ben Bateman says believe. We're unnecessarily piling on him, but he says believe. Of course.
Oh,
the answer,
necessarily, 'cause it's
Frank.
funny.
The answer, Frank, is what?
Bangarang!
Bangarang.
And the crowd goes absolutely insane.
The
in
crowd
studio.
completely. Clarke Wolfe. I mean, I think that she was like this. She like her shoulders were a tie. She was tapping her toes, moving her hands like, "Come on, get it wrong, get it wrong." Ah, you know, I mean, she was so jazzed that he got it wrong. She even said "bangarang," and she should next time she plays Ben Bateman, which, by the way, these two are going to see each other later this year. We know Ben Bateman and Who's the Boss won.
I do believe
We know that the tag team champions are, of course, Shire Wolf. So if everything stands as is, we will see them play again later this year. She should for sure wear a Bangarang t-shirt.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
But you know what's interesting is that when Ben he asked for a repeat on this question, I was like,
yeah,
that really also doesn't seem like gamesmanship right there. That seems like he really did it because he's really good at hiding whether or not a question is a struggle for him. But this one, he couldn't really help it, I feel like, because he kind of really did seem like to settle into a thought there, trying to figure it out. At least that's how I looked at it. And
do you think he knew? Do you think he knew somewhere and it just was one of these like,
Yeah, well, when he talks about in his post-game match, you know, he talks about how he watched the movie all the time. He's on VHS, blah, blah, blah. And he's just like, it's just one of those things where it wasn't, he just said it wasn't, it might have come to him in like 30 minutes, maybe not. But again,
like one of those things where like you're driving back home afterwards, and you're like, bang.
Right, like you have to like not think about it in order for you to actually now get that answer, right? So, again, it could go to your point earlier on, that is it getting burned out? I don't know, but this could have been, perhaps, maybe, I doubt it, but it was just one of those days, one of those questions, and not all the time. In the end, he knows the answer. You just don't know it when you're up there at the desk, and that's ultimately what lost him the match.
Oh, absolutely. That's
this question is. I mean, some people have pointed out that this is his Bespin moment, like John Rocco. Like, this is his Bespin, because I gotta agree, this one, especially when you hear his history with the movie, his own personal history, this one's rough. This one's rough to swallow. You know,
I don't know. What's worse? What's worse? Believe or Fruit of the Looms? I don't know. I think Fruit of the Looms.
That's a great poll. That's a great poll.
Can we throw that to the audience out there?
Yeah.
Comment. What is worse? Believe or Fruit of the Looms? I think it's neck and neck. It really is neck and neck. Let's go move on, though. Clarke Wolfe goes, her question number 2. We're still tied 15-15. Keanu Reeves and Charlize Theron, speaking of burned out, and Charlize Theron starred in what 2001 romantic drama? The answer was Sweet, Sweet November. And Mark Riley had a good pun. Is it going to be Mark Riley? Mark Ellis had a great pun. It's going to be a sweet November for Clarke Wolfe. Nobody liked it. I enjoyed it. I was like, what? That actually completely worked out.
It works, but does it deserve a chuckle? I think it applauds a head nod, like, yes. Good job.
I think it deserves a yuck. Like,
well, see, look, I got beef with Ellis, so I can't really give him
Cincinnati.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what it's about now, because I mean, I'm sure it's about. He's still probably mad about the whole feet picture thing, and this is his way of getting back at me. So,
well, you know what? If you listen to him, though, he almost says,
"Oh, I
Chicago.
know." That's why I know. That's why he goes. He thought about. He's like, no, I'm mad at this kid, Cincinnati.
Yeah,
he knows I hate Cincinnati. He knows I hate Cincinnati. I don't.
Who doesn't hate Cincinnati? Anyway, let's move on. Question number 3 for Ben Bateman in Friday. Who plays the neighborhood bully that Craig fights at the end of the movie? Like, come on. Did I not watch Friday every single week for like a year straight? Absolutely, I did. Is Smokey not one of my top 5 favorite buddies in any comedy? Absolutely he is. And then do you think that I wouldn't know Debo, a.k.a. Zeus, from the WWF? This man was a professional wrestler. Of course I know Debo. Debo was the guy. Every time, in school, in middle school, high school, if you got knocked out, there were a lot of fights in my school. It was in a nice part of town, but there were a lot of fights. Anytime someone got knocked out, they say you got deboed. That was what we said in high school. So, of course, I remember this one. Ben Bateman gets it correct, which puts the pressure on Clarke Wolfe. Ben Bateman has 20. Clarke Wolfe has 18. Can she get it right? Question number 3 was, and I shortened this question up because it was very long, Skaliski. Dustin Hoffman plays a meek American in England when locals begin to terrorize him, something of that nature. The answer was Straw Dogs, and she did not Ben Bateman. She did not Ben Bateman. She just came right out and said it and slapped him upside the face with her words. Clarke Wolfe wins the match 23-20. Finally gets past the first round. Ben Bateman's dreams of winning both tournaments and leaving dual champion in the movie Trivia Schmoedown Spectacular are no more. They have disintegrated right in front of him. What a great match. What a nail biter. Came down to the very last question. Clarke Wolfe continues her dominance. And she is moving on in the tournament. Frank.
Yeah, this was a... real quick about her question. I can't even pretend to know that I've even heard of this movie, Straw Dog.
Oh, my goodness.
So, but apparently, a lot of other people have, so it was an easy question to them. Whatever. Anyways, this performance by Clarke, I think, further shows that she's been on a roll this whole year. I know that, she lost to Sam Levine in overtime. It was overtime in a title match. Some people were, questioning whether or not she should have had the shot she did against Kalinowski for a number one contender match, but I think she vindicated that scenario by the way she played Levine, and then she has her run in teams with Rachel, and then she plays the way she did today here. She was 13 of 15, only missed 2 questions, right? So I think it has shown. I think Clarke is probably playing better than she ever has at any point in the past couple of years. Given everything she's done with the teams and her individual play here, she really is. Look, she's really going to make a case for Player of the Year right now, especially if she gets past Andreyko and into the final, and then let's say she wins the final.
If she wins the final, she's the Player of the Year.
I absolutely.
Regardless if she goes on and beats Roca in the Spectacular,
right.
She's Player of the Year.
I mean, there's some other qualifiers there that I would still hold someone like her in her position too for Player of the Year, but nonetheless, she's making a strong case right now. Ben, I think he had an above average year. Right. He's not finishing it with a winning record, so it's. Who
knows though? He could walk out.
Hey, yes, he can totally. He can totally flip it around. I'm talking about when I say not a winning record. I'm talking about singles. Yes, in terms of teams, yeah, obviously, a great year for him,
crushing it.
It's one of the most dominant teams we've seen, and we've seen a handful in that team league. So he can always hang his hat on that. But now more than ever, he's going to want to get that W at Spectacular against Shire Wolves.
Let's talk about, though, this post-match here. Of course, the words were spoken with the great Jen Sturger backstage. And then, though, we move on, though. There's a cut scene again. Who's the boss? Sitting there talking. Ben Bateman, Mark Riley, yucking it up, just chatting. And I don't remember what the line was, but then Mark Riley goes, speaking of moral, and then Tom Dagnino walks up. Another great line, great entry. He starts to tell them about this piece of paper that he signed with Brienne. Yeah. Hey, we might not be at the Spectacular. They start freaking out. They're like, what did you do? Why would you do that? We need to be at Spectacular. We want to go against the Shire Wolves, right? And then he goes, guys, don't worry. I signed it Frank Dagnino. And then they all kind of embrace. Just a great way to cap off this match. Now, before we get to...
but you forgot the best part.
What was the best part?
As he's leaving that scene, he goes, shit, I should have signed it. Frank Dagnino.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I should have done it. So,
He was just trying to, CYA in front of his team. And then, obviously he made a boneheaded decision, as always. But, it might pay off for him, and we're going to see how this all comes full circle. And that's what I wanted to get to. Before we talk about Dan Murrell and Stacey Howard, let's talk about the opening scene from the Friday match, which was the Stacey Howard-Dan Murrell match. We saw Brienne and Thad kicking it for a little bit, and it seems like they came to an agreement that Thad and Christian would battle for the commissionership. And then Brienne said, yeah, that's not good enough. We need Tom in it. Now, I don't know why she wants Tom Dagnino in the Commissioner Bowl. Huh?
She tells you why.
Well, but I'm saying, like, when you hear her float this initial theory.
At first.
Yeah, of Tom. It's like, I don't know why you would want Tom Dagnino in the Commissioner Bowl. Now, here's the thing. Tom Dagnino has been flirting with this commissionership here kind of all year. If you remember back in, like, what was it, April or May, somewhere in there was that patron goal that if we met this by a certain time, Tom Dagnino would be commissioner for a given amount of time for the movie Trivia Schmoedown.
I think it was a week.
I think it was a week. Hate to see that. We didn't get to see that, fully play out. But he's kind of been flirting with his commissionership for a while, and it made me pontificate, if you will, Daddy.
Did you just learn that word today? I think you did.
Did I say that more than once?
I think you just learned it today. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
It's a big word.
Don't be an asshole. Anyway, I started to think, how great would it be, though, if Tom Dagnino were the commissioner of the movie Trivia Schmoedown? I think it would be the best thing that ever happened. Absolutely. So Brienne talks about why she thinks that Tom's qualified, and and Thad begrudgingly agrees to it. And then Brienne also just kind of throws out there, make it a fatal four-way too. Like, we'll put another person in there. Whatever. We'll figure it out. We'll just do that. Whatever you want to do. And kind of put the ball back in Thad's court, which was a little odd. But I think that Brienne's whole meddling in this is, like you said earlier, a little bit odd to begin with. Sure, she's running the Patreon. Why is she, up, leading the uprising against? But I'm glad somebody is. Now, of course, I know what happened. Between, Mike and that. I can't reveal it. I learned it in Portland, Cannon Beach. I figured out what happened. So I might use use my information to try to see. Maybe I can be the commissioner. Maybe I can be in the commissioner, match.
Oh, okay.
Why not?
You think you'd be in the commissioner match?
Why not? Me, Christian, Thad, Dagnino, and then, we'll get to maybe we make it a fatal five-way. I'm just throwing that out there.
Okay.
Brienne, holler at me. You know what I'm saying? Just holler at me. Dad. You know. So anyway, let's talk about this match. Dan Murrell, Stacey Howard. This is the second time we are seeing them in a first-round match in a tournament on opposing sides.
Interesting.
We spoke about this, I think, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
where I just said,
you brought it up, yeah.
I said, Stacey, just, come on, man. Doesn't seem to have the best luck when it comes to drawing her first-round competitor. To have Dan Murrell on the other side of it twice, not what you want to see. Booker T tells a story about there was a wrestler back in the day who passed away earlier this year, I believe. Yeah, he did. Big Van Vader. And Vader was a really tough dude, really tough. Vader was so tough, his eye popped out of his socket one time during a match, and he literally just cupped it in his hand and he shoved it back in his head and continued wrestling. This is the kind of crazy, I'm not joking, it happened in Japan. This is the kind of crazy man that Big Van Vader was. And all the guys, who are young guys, starting out in WCW, when you get to the building, you'd look on the call sheet to see what the matches were for that evening. And every time the guys would look down, they'd see their name, and then they'd scroll across, and they see that they were working Vader. They literally, one guy left. He just left the building. He was like, not doing it, not tonight. Because Vader was known for just, hey, it's going to be a rough night. It's going to be a long, rough night for you in there because you're going to be bumping your ass off, and he's going to lay it in stiff, brother. Another term in wrestling, he's going to potato you to death. And that's exactly what would happen with Vader. I think this is kind of the same thing for Stacey Howard. When she gets to the building, she looks, oh, I'm playing first round. Who's it against? Damn it. Twice? Why? This wasn't a good... here's the thing. I'm not trying to diminish Stacey Howard at all. Not even in the slightest, because we saw what she did last year to Mark Ellis. What I'm talking about in the tournament, what I'm talking about is just the caliber of Dan Murrell. He's referred to as the greatest of all time. You don't want to see that. If you're an up-and-coming boxer and you scroll across and see you're going to face Floyd Mayweather, who's undefeated, you're like, well, crap. That's not exactly what I want. But also, gives you a high upside of if you do win, now you're mentioned amongst the legends, the myths. So I just think that for Stacey, probably this wasn't her ideal situation. And Jay Washington, who's my guy, we know I love Jay Washington, seemed a little bit overconfident, in my opinion. I mean, maybe Jay is always overconfident, but just in general, he seemed a little bit overconfident going against Dan Moreau. I guess because to go back to it, my Rocky III analogy, we've seen a chink in the armor. We know that he bleeds the same blood that we do, right?
Right.
So
I have O negative, so
I'm A positive.
Hey, how about that?
Hey, look at that. But anyway, I think that we've seen now Dan Murrell is human, in fact. So I think maybe that's why Jay was so confident. Did you see this match playing out? Was there any kind of pathway you saw for Stacey Howard just in general to go out there and pull this one off? She did against Mark Ellis.
Right. So it was really all contingent upon the second round, because as long as you can get to the final round, the third round, anything can happen. You just gotta get there to give yourself a shot. And I thought, if she can just have a strong second round where she can make it tight going into that final round, then she's got a shot. But if she was going into this third round with a 4 or 5 point deficit, it wasn't going to look good. But if she can keep within 2 or even 1, right, then she has a real shot at the upset. But you still have to put in the work in the first round as well, and she didn't quite do that. And then you can contrast that with what Murrell did.
Yeah.
It was looking real bad real quick.
So, might as well jump into it here. Dan Murrell comes out with John Roca and Mark Riley.
Which is interesting.
Mark Riley has kind of aligned himself with Dagnino and, of course, been Bateman as of late. And what's interesting is John Roca is going to end up facing the winner of this tournament, which very well could be Dan Murrell. A little odd. And Dan Murrell even kind of makes reference to that in his opening promo. But still, I thought, okay, it might be a little weird here. Where is Jason Inman? Where is Matt Nost?
Shoot, I don't know. I think... I don't know. I'm not even going to venture a guess.
I don't want to pile on at all, but to me, it's like one of the greatest moments, and maybe the moment of the year at the Movie Trivia Schmoedown Awards this year will be that 5 Horsemen reveal.
Right.
It's kind of been the climax.
Right. I don't know that if they've all been in the same room together since that
I don't
day.
think they have.
Maybe
there's been 4
once.
of them at least.
Yeah, maybe once, but again, I don't think
schedules. I get it. I mean,
yeah.
I get it. But I'm just saying.
It'd be nice.
Yeah, just for me.
That's why you should just have a faction with not as many people, so you can coordinate.
But to be a faction, you need more people. Like you need more than 2 people. At the break.
Yes, but also you got to think of the Five Club. They've always shown up all up together, and I'm not counting Whitwer because we already know that. So Whitwer's not. I know that he's like technically a part of the Five Club, but honestly, I don't count.
He's
him
like
part of
you know what he's kind of like Redman is to Wu-Tang Clan. He's not in the group. But he's an affiliate, he's around.
Yeah. Right.
So that's what Sam Whitwer is. So let's talk about the match, though. So round number 1, we see it go down after some real smack talk there between John Roca and Jay Washington. They had to be separated.
I couldn't even
Christian
understand
Harloff.
what they were even talking about.
It was senseless jabber, but I enjoyed it, and I loved every second of it. After that, Dan Murrell goes 8 for 8 and then hits a bonus in round number 1. Stacey Howard, I believe, gets 4.
Yeah.
4, yeah.
Brutal.
5-point deficit going into round 2 is not a good thing. It's a very bad thing. Dan Murrell And I know you said it in the stats segment at the end of the match. Was this the first time he's ever gone perfect?
This was the second time he's gone 8 for 8, but the first time he hit the bonus. So he didn't hit the bonus last time, but he...
Right.
Yeah.
So first time he went 8... Second time he went for 8 for 8, but first time he went 9 for 9, essentially, in round number 1. Just lights out. Just lights out. Reminds me of the closing pitcher back in the day of the Houston Astros. His name was Brad Lidge, and we called him Lights Out Lidge. Lights Out Lidge. Didn't really hold up that well. But my point was, Dan Murrell, lights out during this match. 9-4 going into round number 2, and it was just a bloodbath there on out. Stacey Howard, it's got to be the curse of the category with Stacey Howard. I think that this is what we need to call it. In baseball, of course, the Chicago Cubs. I know you're a White Sox guy, but the Chicago Cubs had the curse of the Billy Goat for 110 years or whatever it was, 103 years. There was the curse of the Billy Goat where they wouldn't let a man in Wrigley Field with a Billy Goat. So the team was cursed forevermore until they finally broke it back in, what was that, 2016 or something like that?
Yeah.
And then you have the curse of the category with Stacey Howard. She has played, I think your stat was 7 times this year, or spun the wheel 7 times.
Yeah, she spun the wheel 7 times.
She's landed on director 4 times.
It's unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it.
I would go before the match. I would sneak in the back, find the wheel, take that slice off of it, and burn it. Burn it with kerosene.
So
in a match.
In her 4 matches, again, she spun directors twice back-to-back against Makuga, spun it in that triple threat match, and then got in this one. Now, if you want to get a little bit more, it's still within the same realm of directors. When she faced Rachel Cushing to end her year last year, when she got knocked out, she landed on opponents, and Rachel gave her a director in Ridley Scott. So really, I mean, she's had directors in 1, 2, 3, 4 of her last 5 singles matches, basically.
That's rough.
Yeah, that's
here's the thing.
Insane. Yeah, the
directors category, it sucks. It's tough. That's a tough category.
She weathered it. She weathered it pretty well against Makuga, but other than that, it's been not good.
Rough.
Yeah,
that category sucks. It really does.
Especially for her, because clearly she does not know her directors, which I guess if you're Stacey Howard, maybe you brush up on
You start studying up on them.
Yeah. You might as well.
Because you're going to get that category another 50 times.
Right. Although you got to think, like, I'm surely not going to get directors my next match, so why should I? But yet, 3 matches later, you're still getting directors.
She is cursed. I'm sorry. And Stacey, she has, not only does she have to go against Dan Murrell, she gets her worst category, or seemingly one of her worst categories in directors. Dan Murrell, I think, ends up getting 2 steals during that time. And then he spins new releases and runs the table.
Thank God he didn't spin away from it, because I don't know why people in the industry like him spin away from new releases. We saw that with the team match with the Harris brothers.
Yeah.
So, again, Ben and Riley talked about that when they were on here, and not to mention they talked about it on his roundtable, Riley Roundtable, which is great. I just had a chance to listen to it. It's really good. I fully expected him to dominate this category the way he did, and he did. I mean, he had to go multiple choice twice, which is fine, but nonetheless, he went 4 for 4, which was the main point.
And a knockout.
And then, ultimately knocked her out,
18-7, second round, knockout. KO. End of story. I wish we could dive deeper into this match, but we really can't, because it was very cut and dry in a simple situation. No one made mistakes. There was no big F-ups or anything like that. There was no gaps in the memory. It was just Stacey Howard doesn't know directors, and she continues to spin directors, and Dan Murrell was locked in. There's nothing you could do about it. There was nothing you could do about it if you were Stacey Howard. So don't hold your head too much at this match. And Jay Washington even alluded to it in the post-match. What? We thought this was the broken down Dan Murrell that we saw after Andrew guy beat me. We thought this was this Dan Murrell. This was not this Dan Murrell. This was the Dan Murrell, who we all know and loved. This was the GOAT. This was the dangerous one. This was the leader of the new Murrell order. This was Dan Murrell at his most vicious. And now, to see that he and Ethan Irwin are going to lock horns in the semifinals is ridiculous.
This is, like we said up top, this one could be one for the ages. If we see this Dan Murrell and we see the Ethan that we've seen all year, we could literally. I mean, could we see 9 for 9? Both players score 9 points next match next Tuesday.
I could see both players going. What was it? 15 total questions, right?
Yeah.
I could see them both going 15 and 15, and then going into extra innings. I might be putting too much on it. You know what I mean? Too much hot sauce on that wing. Shout out to Sean Evans. But I think that with these guys, it just depends on if they show up and they're both in their peak top condition. Their mind is clear. They didn't have a long night the night before. They didn't, if everything is as it's supposed to be, these two can have one of the greatest matches of all time.
What's interesting is that there are players in this league who have to kind of get into a mindset, like Roca. He gets into a zone and he kind of relaxes and gets his head right. But then there's players, and when I say players, I just mean one. It just seems like Ethan Irwin can just like walk up to the table and just start answering questions without like it's no big thing. Like it's
hey,
like
what's
it's
up,
just
guys? Oh,
like it's just like
do it.
breathing for him. Like he just goes, "What do you ask me?" Oh yeah, this. And other people got to kind of get themselves centered and ready to go out there. He just, all right, yeah, sit down. What's the question? Okay, this is the answer. And then I go home.
I could see him
that's
playing.
Crazy.
I could see him on his Nintendo Switch. I'm just assuming that he owns one because it's a great video game system. And I could just see him playing it. He's playing Mario Kart, and he runs the gambit. You know what I mean? He wins the Mushroom Cup and the singles tournament. I could just see it happen.
Every game he owns like twice.
Oh, yes.
Just like, yes. And it's like no challenge for him. He just does it. And it's like, yeah, I've beaten that one. I've beaten that one. I've beaten that one. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's the guy who just, he goes to GameStop and just lays out his entire collection on the table. Be like, I beat all these. What do you got next for me?
What do you got next? Yeah.
What's left? And I think that's how he's treating the movie trivia Schmoedown. It'd be interesting to know if he's actually a gamer. But guys, what a great week of matches. That Bateman match and Clarke Wolfe. If you've already seen it, which I'm assuming you have if you're watching this, go watch it again. It was that good. And if you haven't seen that exhibition match, go watch it and watch it again. But the last thing we got to talk about, there was another cutscene. We saw Emma Fyffe and Tom Dagnino together, which was odd. Was it not? It was weird to see them.
Yeah, it was interesting.
It was weird to see them together. There seems to be a soft, attraction is definitely the wrong word, but like a soft appreciation coming from Tom Dagnino and being reciprocated by Emma Fyffe. There's a very soft appreciation between the two of them. And I don't know when this has started or when it started to go like this, but it seems to be bitter rivals are kind of now seeing through each other's eyes.
Yeah, it's interesting because, as we know, Emma has a long history with the Lion's Den, whether it's with Snyder and Dagnino mainly, not really JTE, but definitely a long history with Dagnino, and especially when Grace Hancock was part of that faction, that cattiness that was going on, the feud rather that was going on, and to see it now between Emma and Tom, you're right, it is interesting the way this dynamic is now playing out, and it was actually really funny to see Tom at that desk practicing what it would sound like when Who's the Boss would win, the titles that Spectacular, and then here comes Emma. So yeah, it was a fun scene.
It was a fun scene. So then we saw Thad enter, and Thad started saying, laying out this what he's calling the Commissioner Bowl.
Right.
Last year we had a Manager Bowl, which was very fun, and people didn't expect it to be, but was a very fun game. 4 competitors. And he said, there was a manager bowl last year. This year we're gonna have the commissioner bowl. The commissionership is on the line. Tom Dagnino, you're in the bowl. He's like, oh yeah, hey, let's do it. Whatever. He said, I'm cool with that. And then, I don't understand his pathos here, but then Thad extends an invitation to young Emma Fyffe and says, do you want to be in the commissioner bowl? And it's like, yeah, why wouldn't I want all the power in the world? That's kind of like the president saying, do you want to be my vice president? Yeah, you're kind of getting up there in age. I could probably take over here soon.
Well, the reason Thad extends that to Emma is because if he has Tom in it and has Emma in it,
he thinks
that match is at Spectacular, then they got to show up to Spectacular, and now he doesn't have to worry about he doesn't have to worry about Shire Wolves and Who's the Boss not showing at Spectacular, because obviously they'll be there because they're going to try and play for the commissionership. So,
am I stupid, or why did I not put that together?
I didn't want to say it directly, but I was just trying to beat around that bush, yes.
Why didn't I put that I don't know why I didn't put that together. And I watched the scene, too. I don't know why I didn't put that together. Wow, I'm kind of dumb. But anyway, we now know there's going to be a commissioner bowl between Thad Williams, Christian Harloff, Tom Dagnino, and Emma Fyffe. Winner is in charge.
If Christian does not win this match, there's no reason why a former singles and team champ should not win this match against Emma, Tom, and Thad.
It depends on the questions, man.
I don't care. I don't care. There's no reason why he should lose this match. He should not lose this match. He shouldn't.
I don't know. I think it's going to be up to the Schmoedown gods, but the winner will be the commissioner. If Thad pulls off a big victory, hey man, he stays in power for another year. Christian gets it, he gets back the keys to the kingdom. Personally speaking, Tom Dagnino in power for a year would be the best birthday/Christmas present young Brad Gilmore could ever ask for.
That's a great scenario for you. But here's another great scenario:
phenomenal scenario
is if Emma wins the Commissioner Bowl. Not only does she beat Tom again in a match like last year, but then all these sour people on Emma have to deal with the fact that Emma is commissioner, and I would just love to bask in those people's turmoil.
Alexa, am I handsome? Anyway, I'd like to see what happens. But that was the week there was here on the Movie Trivia Schmoedown. This has been the Schmoedown Rundown, episode number 113. Frank, anything else before we get out of here? Because I think we've covered it all and very thoroughly. Thoroughly. Sorry.
Yeah, we're really on our game today.
Me more so than you, but that's kind of normal.
True. Yeah,
okay, so Chris Clarke, why don't you let the people know where they can find you, anything you want to plug, and then I'm going to go to Frank.
Because, you're really on your game today, Brad. Yeah.
We're all on a game, but you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ChrisClarke8788. Those numbers mean nothing. And also on YouTube, I produce some stuff for Take 3 Productions, so make sure to check that channel out as well. And also, if you're going to the New York event, my band is playing along with Alex Marzona, and Jay Washington is headlining. We are doing a fan event at Sidewalk Cafe. More details soon.
And there we go. Chris, you've been in music. Did you ever call yourself One Take Jake? That was a big thing in my group. Whenever you nail something in one take, we'd be like, One Take Jake. One Take Jake. I don't know. That was a thing with me. Okay, same for you. Okay, cool. Frank Janisch, why don't you let the people know what you got going on in your life?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at FrankieJ29. Those numbers mean something. That number means something.
What does it mean?
It's actually the date of my birthday. 29. My birthday lands on the 29th. On the 29th.
I thought it was February 9th.
No, it's not 2 9s, but yeah. 29.
I dig that, Chris. That was funny. What's your birthday? When is it?
I'm not telling you.
Why can't I know your birthday?
Because it's soon.
December 29th?
No.
January 29th. Okay, there we go. And you can follow me on all social media at Brad Gilmore. Make sure you check out Heated Conversations, myself at Booker T, talking about pro wrestling, MMA, and anything else we want every single week on Sports Radio 610 and on every podcast service around the world. Check out the Brad Gilmore Show. This Monday, I got Kevin Perjurer from Defunct Land. We're talking about his new book, Defunct Land, A Guide to the Magic Kingdom. Great book, great guest. We talk about all theme parks. Did you know that Disney wanted to do a theme park about the history of America and included a roller coaster about slavery? This is true, and Kevin Perger and I talk about this terrible, terrible, terrible idea. Defunct Land. Check out that podcast on Monday. For Frank Janisch, for Chris Clarke, I am Brad Gilmore. This is the Schmoedown Rundown, and we'll be back next week with 114.
That's one hell of a way to end an episode.